Hi friends, I'm Gio, your host, narrator, and the mixologist of mystery. Welcome to my channel. Each week, we stir together bold cocktails and unforgettable stories, served with a twist of glitter and grit. This episode, co-written with my creative co-pilot, blending shadows and sweetness in one smoky noir pour. So grab your glass, settle in, and let the drama bloom. Let's begin. Notes about the Morrison case. Thursday, June 7th. I've seen sunrises that lie better than most people, especially my target, one Chandler Morrison, son of Senator Charles Morrison. Daddy was a two-term senator, member of the Oversight Committee on National Affairs and Interagency Relations, CEO of Hypergraph, specializing in experimental water filtration systems for industrial use, and founder of the Ashbourne Society. Dad's a Washington bigwig. He didn't hire me. Chandler Morrison's fiancée did. Her name's Georgia Pembroke. Technically, her parents will foot my bill. They have questions. Most of those questions are about a third party in the relationship, i.e., somebody's dipping the pickle in somebody else's jar. They wanted the whole menu. GPS history, phone records, social habits, shoe size. If he sneezed, they wanted to know what kind of tissue he used. They even gave me Chandler's number, email address, and what kind of candy bar, peanut butter cups, he preferred before I even knew his middle name. Grover, as in the president. Daddy dreams big. Recently, Senator Morrison squashed a photo of his son at a party. Nothing unusual there. Party animal, white shirt. Big social bash for the elite. Lots of high-class booze with names only snobs can pronounce. Chandler was seen in the arms of some socialite by an unreliable source. Blonde, tiny mouth, skin like porcelain, petite figure, dressed in frills and diamonds. Evidently, he had allegedly come home with lipstick on his collar and smelled of something feminine. Chandler replied by saying he hadn't kissed any lady that night. Didn't know how the lipstick got there. Claimed it was probably spilled wine. Senator Morrison used the excuse that every rich person uses these days. Those are fake photos. Somebody is trying to destroy his reputation. The Pembrokes aren't buying it. They hired me to dig past the lies. I tailed Chandler at a discreet distance for most of the week. A pharmacist intern who is as boring as anybody I've tailed. Work, home, occasionally meets friends. No woman in the picture. Nobody ever noticed my car, a Chevrolet Malibu the color of worn nickels. Forgettable enough to tail Sterling Lock or blend in outside a jazz dive where the regret smells like lemon cleaner and last week's cigarettes. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't snarl. It exists just enough to be ignored by a basement jazz club tucked into a crack Vegas forgot to mention. The Black Orchid Club, Chandler's destination. A jazz dive where the clientele are dirty and the jazz is dirtier. My job? Shadow Chandler without him knowing and take pictures. Lots of pictures. They want a minute-by-minute playbook. They want to know if the boring pharmacist is cheating and the woman he's cheating with, preferably without the good senator finding out. I put on my black-rimmed, clunky glasses, Bluetoothing them to my phone. The glasses have a microdot camera hidden in the bridge. I'd analyze the recordings later, once I'm home with the beer. From the outside, the Black Orchid Club was a dark door with stairs leading down, flanked by flickering LED lanterns. A black canopy protected the clientele from the elements, even though Vegas didn't have elements. A bouncer, with arms that doubled as road equipment, wore black slacks and a black tee, growled as anybody passed by. He ignored me. I looked the part. Dark gray jacket, faded jeans, a Hawaiian shirt that screamed, "Tourist." People would remember the shirt, not my face. Most important, the emblem of St. Jude Thaddeus hanging on a black thong around my neck. An old boyfriend gave it to me on our anniversary. Old St. Jude is the patron of lost causes. Sounds like my love life. St. Jude better get working. A stylized white orchid ordained the center of the door. A steady stream of smoldering saxophone throbbed in the air. I pushed the door open, walked down a short passage, and into the club. Single floor, walls cloaked in dark wood and shadow, a stage flanked by red velvet drapes housing a 5-person jazz band. Some guy played the saxophone as if he were seducing it. The woman on the piano played sultry, smooth, and when she hummed, the entire crowd leaned closer. The room smelled of cheap gin, microwaved barbecue wings, and frustration. It took a moment to spot my target. Chandler had taken a seat in a booth near the back, sipping a cocktail, alone. He wore a gray tweed jacket, a lavender silk shirt open at the neck, and a white carnation in the lapel. He didn't look worried, not like a man who's had his name dragged across 5 gossip sites and named most eligible bachelor on Nightlife in Vegas, even beating Anders Young, heir to the Young fortune. His fingers toyed with the cocktail glass like he was auditioning for Subtle Menace. Pinky out, wrist loose, a man born knowing what a slow stir communicates. I adjusted my glasses. Angle was decent, light, moody but serviceable. The frame caught his expression as the sax player moaned through a note that could have doubled as a bedroom confession. Chandler smiled, like he'd just heard something filthy, and agreed with it. I snapped a few shots. Georgia wanted documentation. Her parents wanted dirt. I wanted to know why Chandler Morrison was sipping alone in a club that smelled like regrets and moonshine cologne. Was he waiting for the mystery woman? The truth, I didn't trust him. The problem? I didn't trust myself around him either. The cute, quiet guys can be the most dangerous. They slip past your defenses with a smile. Next thing you know, you've fallen in love. Dark hair, eyes that kept confessions tucked behind lashes, a face that looked like innocence, a drawn curtain that could hide either an angel or a demon. It was the kind of face you didn't expect to be alone. Yet here he is, waiting, yet no one showed. "What's he drinking?" I asked the bartender, nodding toward Chandler. I laid a Benjamin on the bar right in front of her. "What can you tell me about him?" "He's drinking a Black Orchid Special, the Mojarita. Pretty popular around here." The bartender slid the Benjamin off the bar like it was something she'd been waiting for. Her hand moved fast. Her expression didn't. "He's a regular. Don't know his real name, but around here we call him Silk. Account of him always wearing a silk shirt." "I'll try a Mojarita," I said. "Silk's a regular?" "Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday. Usually meets a guy, but not recently. It's just been him the last month." She began pouring the ingredients for my Mojarita into a shaker. "Who did he meet?" "Don't know his name either." I thought a moment. "A month ago. What changed? They break up?" "Could have been a backroom deal for all I know. One week he showed up, the next he didn't. Why are you asking all these questions? You a cop?" "One good thing about being a private investigator, sometimes you have to think fast. Lies mixed with truth. Nothing so dramatic. He's cute. I'm thinking about talking to him, and I wanted to see if he was already called for. Do you know if he'd be favorable to a guy asking him out? Buy him a drink, maybe?" The bartender gave me the kind of look like she was weighing whether she believed me or not. She shook her head, a motion barely perceptible, before grunting. "Who knows if he's seeing anyone? And you'll have to ask him to see if he's favorable. I'll add the extra Mojarita to your tab." She shook the shaker, then poured the drink into 2 tall glasses filled with ice, garnishing them with a lime wheel and a fresh mint sprig. Setting one before me, she took the other one to Chandler. They had a brief exchange. Then the bartender pointed at me. Chandler looked at me, the kind of look you gave a tiger in a zoo. Not quite fear, not quite wonder, praying the fences will hold. I raised my mojarita in a toast. What a way to blow my cover. His eyes narrowed, so did his lips. He didn't toast, but he did shrug. A quiet flick of a pen on a napkin, which he handed to the bartender. I picked up my drink, sipped it, adjusted my glasses. One word described my situation. Trouble. If I'm not careful, my libido would betray me. Clasping the cool glass in my hands, I lazily let my gaze travel around my target. To the white carnation drawing my attention like fish bait. He'd think I was checking him out. I told myself I wasn't, that I was being professional, that my heart didn't beat a little faster. Chandler didn't back down. He blessed me with a half smirk that could be an invitation or a challenge. Waiting. I didn't move. Chrysanthemums represent truth laid bare, especially white. I used to date a florist who knew all there was about plants, including their hidden meanings. He was the one that gave me the St. Jude emblem. We broke up because he said I had commitment issues. He wanted to move in together. I didn't. He had been my light when my world wallowed in darkness. A road that split in two very different directions. His went to Seattle. Sipping the drink, I savored the taste. Is the chrysanthemum important? I don't know. Not yet. Nobody wore flowers except at weddings, or a beacon so your blind date can find you. There must be a story there, or a sign. The bartender returned to her station, set a napkin down in front of me, and walked away. I read the napkin. Tell Dad the answer will always be no. I'd been made, but it only added to the story. There was more to this tale. I turned back to Chandler, but his booth was empty. The drink I had bought him, untouched, its condensation making a ring on the napkin it rested on. A big, fat 0. A metaphor for my life. I felt the emblem around my neck. Any time now, St. Jude. Any time. The door to the Black Orchid clicked shut. I circled the block slow, tires humming against the pavement like a half-forgotten song. The mindless drone reminded me of my life. Every so often, it hit a pothole. Chandler's car was where it usually brooded. Outside the modest 2-bedroom apartment he called home. Alone, like him. He interned at a pharmacy in Hanson Mall. Nothing flashy, just a shelf stuffer and a coat a size too big. Ordinary. Painfully so. I parked in a lot that smelled like old gum and asphalt regret, climbed out, and drifted through the crowd, eyes scanning for a familiar silhouette. But the place was dry. No Chandler. No answers. So I did what a man does when the clues run cold. Picked up a cinnamon roll the size of a bad decision from a bakery called Do Me a Favor. The kind of place that serves regret, glazed in sugar and warmth. It wasn't evidence, but it was soft. And in this town, that counts for something. Why would the clean-cut son of a senator who was a pharmacy intern for his day job also visit the Black Orchid Club? It wasn't known for its high-class clientele. Once home, I reviewed the little information I had and went to bed. No sign of any affair, no sign of any woman, no sign of anyone, really. Just a white carnation. Friday. Chandler Morrison reported for work at 9 wearing a white chrysanthemum. Took his usual 45-minute lunch at 1. Chandler clocked out just before 6. The white chrysanthemum still pinned to his lapel, like a question no one dared ask. Routine. Gave me plenty of time to review what I had. The picture of him at the party bothered me. Normal, boring, stiff, living a normal, boring life, attends a social gala with a woman on his arm and lipstick smudging his collar. Note the white chrysanthemum on his lapel. The woman wasn't any blonde, but a femme fatale who expected heads to turn, and they did, high heels clicking through the bodies she left behind. Who was she? A plant? A hire? An escort? High-class call girl? A staged photo op? I zoomed in on her face, just shy of pixelation. It was a face to remember, but she only showed up once, and never again. No name, no backstory, like she didn't exist outside that one photo. Curious, a slight shadow underneath her chin, midway on her throat. Did that supple and shapely neck have an Adam's apple? Could be a trick of the light. Wouldn't anybody else have noticed? Maybe they did, and that's why the Pembrokes hired me. Get past the lies. Dig for the truth. After serving time at the pharmacy, Chandler Morrison went to the bar on 7th. He wore a fresh white chrysanthemum. The man left after a couple of hours, alone, and went home. He didn't go to bed immediately. Lights out around midnight. Mystery woman never showed. No one showed. No affair, no shadows, just routine and a chrysanthemum. A dull life or a well-practiced lie. Saturday. Poor bugger had to work. Same schedule, same silence, new white chrysanthemum. Work at 9, home a little before 6, Xerox copy of Friday. Until 8. The pattern snapped. Chandler stepped out of his apartment in a flowing black long-sleeved shirt, black jeans, and black Doc Martens. Hair spiked. That's new. Pinned to the lapel, a white chrysanthemum. Uber pulled up. Red, freshly washed. He slid inside. The car rolled off like a whisper. A Tesla, Model C. 10 minutes later, it dropped him off at Aricelli's Italian restaurant. Nice place. Eaten there twice. Garlic bread sings in the air. Eggplant parmesan's fantastic. But Chandler didn't go in. 4 minutes later, another Uber. A white Ford SUV swooped in, and the senator's son was gone. Talk about a downgrade. White flower, 2 Ubers, a dive bar called the Black Orchid, an all-new look. Bruce Wayne had geared up for action. Now the trail gets interesting. What are you hiding, Mr. Chandler Morrison, the boring pharmacist? I suspect you don't want Daddy, or your fiancée, Georgia, to find out. The Uber pulled up in front of a dark house in East Vegas, miles from the action of the Strip. Chandler got out and handed the driver a tip. Who does that anymore? Was he buying the driver's silence? Lights off. I pulled up about 100 feet back. East Vegas wasn't the nice part of town. Why would a rich boy with a boring life stop here on a Saturday night? Secret lover? High-stakes poker den? Obviously he came for the food. But there wasn't even a taco cart around. Chandler looked about, rubbing his right palm on his pants. He adjusted the all-important corsage and started walking. I let him get a little lead, climbed out, and followed. 4 blocks. The closer we got to whatever, the more cars were parked on the street. I checked the map app. No stores, no landmarks. Whisper Hills Cemetery, a closed-up church, a coffee shop now closed. Lots of houses ignoring the world. We headed for the old church. Classic steeple, big stained glass window of praying hands with green and blue lights flickering behind it. I felt the music before I heard it. A deep, dark techno keeping time with my pulse. Gritty, industrial, the kind of music you'd use to scrape paint off the ceiling. Chandler went there, as well as others, all men, all wearing a white chrysanthemum. 2 men in black guarded the door. the kind of men who learned etiquette from a pit bull. Chandler walked right past. So did a guy in a fishnet shirt with a white chrysanthemum pinned right above his heart. They hugged like they were more than friends. BFWBs, maybe? Next to enter were two men, shirtless, with glitter sparkling in their hair, Mardi Gras beads swinging around their necks, and chrysanthemums sticking out of their left pockets. The guards made light conversation and let them pass. I tried to walk in. One of the pit bulls raised his hand and stopped me. Another time, babyface. I walked away, noting the address. An exclusive men's club set in an abandoned church? The wealthy getting their kicks? A cult performing unholy rituals? The devil selling donuts? I could imagine the church marquee. Salvation for sale, boxed up like donuts from Hell's Bakery. Sweet, empty, and every bite costing more than you bargained. A police car drove by. Didn't stop. One of the pit bulls waved. Whatever was going on, it was by the book. "Hey," a skinny man in a trench coat asked. "Sucks not having an invite. You want in?" I nodded at the church. "What is it?" "The Tabernacle," he replied, opening one side of his coat. I expected weapons. Instead, it held rows of white chrysanthemums. "Only open on Saturday. A C-note gets you an invite." "A flower? What are you, a traveling florist selling flowers for lost souls?" I asked as I pulled out my wallet. "Like you're any better than the people inside." He pulled a white chrysanthemum from his jacket and a straight pin. "Take it, leave it, it's your life." I debated for all of 5 seconds. If nothing else, I'd add it to the Pembroke expense account. I bought the chrysanthemum, pinned it to my shirt, and walked to the church to the pounding of electronic music grinding away at any sense of self-preservation. It was the kind of angry beat men danced to, not to enjoy, but to forget. What was Chandler trying to forget? Better question, what was I? I walked past the smirking guards, past where my sanity begged me to flee, and entered the Church of Spiked Dreams. The only things that remained of the church were the tall ceiling with the stained glass praying hands and the altar. Deep shadows hid most of the ceiling, ripped apart by multicolored blobs of red or green or purple strobes. Disco sparkles cluttered the air, illuminating writhing bodies dancing to the tune of thousands of cats screaming to a primal beat. Hundreds of guys worshipped at the holy church of darkling desires, some in ripped tuxes, others in silks and velvets, and many in almost nothing. A spectacle of lust on parade. A flower convention of white chrysanthemums. Muscleheads, twinks, jocks, nerds, daddies, bears, silver foxes, drag queens, everybody, every age, every nationality. If you were old enough to drink, and you were male, you were old enough to wear a flower. It smelled of sweat, of musky cologne, and frustrated libidos all gyrating in mindless frenzy. A symphony of chaos made flesh, a cesspool of glitter and rainbows stepping out from the shadows, all made alive as they worshipped the throbbing music. The DJ, a sorcerer waving his hands over an electronic frenzy of keyboards and turntables. The altar worshipped the holy rites of the mixmaster, a bar with as much selection as any in Vegas. Our holy booze broker blessed us with vodka and Everclear and other fun combos that killed brain cells. An underground party, an exclusive techno rave, the ultimate gay bash. Somewhere in here was the senator's son. 50-1 daddy doesn't know about his precious son's flaming double life. 100-1 neither does the fiancé. The cops do. At least not who, but what and where. The why was on display. If I wasn't clocking the job, I'd grab a drink and join them in their celebration of freedom. Hell, I had to blend in. I grabbed a tequila sunrise, walked the edges, past plastic chairs and glossy tables, and a man dressed in a pink princess gown rocking the Marge Simpson hair, but in pink. On my third circuit, I spotted him. Chandler, the senator's wayward son. In the middle of the mosh pit they call dancing. He'd lost his shirt, but not his corsage. His body was painted like a rainbow Jackson Pollock painting, and he held a glass of something green. He slithered among the crowd, alone, yet dancing with everyone. A cipher amidst pretty boys, slick with sweat, high on hormones, alive like he hadn't been any other time I tailed him. He danced with fishnet shirt guy, attempting a conversation in the jet-level noise of the music. I'd be deaf by morning. This wasn't the same Chandler I followed to work, or the grocery store, or to his apartment. A transformation equal to any on TV. This was the real Chandler. Confident, happy, excited about life. Most guys gave him a second look, and third, me included. Damn, me without my glasses. The crowd surged. I lost sight of Chandler. The music swelled, paused between heartbeats, as if holding its violent breath. A driving chord like lightning. Everyone jumped. Where did he go? There he is, closer, arms above his head, dusted with glitter, dancing with some guy with pale skin and a gray hoodie. Creepy guy with vampire fangs. Looked overdressed compared to the rest of the guys. Takes all kinds. What you drinking? The man in the fishnet shirt leaned on the counter next to me, smelling of sweat and pheromones. His hair was dark, shaved on the sides, spiked on top, a pride flag on his right cheek. His breath smelled like rum. You dress good for an undercover cop. You got some handcuffs? Because I'm about to break the law. My eyes almost rolled, but I controlled myself. I should have expected to get hit on at a place like this. Sipping my drink to gather courage, I asked, You got a name? Ziggy. You? The disco sparkles reflected off his fishnet shirt as if it were metallic. The shirt hid nothing. Ziggy was only a wet tissue away from being shirtless. His eyes twinkled as he realized where my eyes roamed. I met his gaze, locking them on his eyes, and nothing else. I'm Silas. What you drinking? The angle of the light hit him just right. I had seen him before, but as a blonde. He was the woman in the photo. No wonder no one identified her. He had one of those Adam's apples that was barely noticeable, except under the right light. Depending on the makeup, his face could pass as male or female. But his body under the mesh tank was male, and one that kept in shape. Glass is empty, I said. Mario, Ziggy yelled, waving his hand to attract the barkeep's attention. 2 manifestos. Add them to my tab. Before he spoke again, he pulled a tube from his pocket and applied a plum-colored gloss to his lips. You know a lot of people here? I asked. The bartender brought our drinks and set them before us. You're not a regular, Ziggy said, laying down a 20. The barkeep pocketed it and moved on. I'd know if you were. So, what's your story, pretty boy? I looked into the deep violet drink, almost black in the dim light, edged with black lava salt and sprinkled with silver glitter. Going for a walk and heard the music. I sipped it. Blackberry, black vodka, a tart sweetness. Ziggy nodded, but something in the squaring of his shoulders told me he didn't buy it. You've been checking out my boy, Chandler, since you got here. Time to play it chill. I've been checking out a lot of people. Which one is Chandler? His answer chilled me. The one you've been following for the last few days. Ziggy set his drink on the bar. All pretense of a smile disappeared. You're not too subtle, you and that old silver Chevrolet of yours. The big question is, why? Who you working for? A statement, not a question. I swirled the drink in the glass, wondering exactly what I should say. The truth, of a sort. I'm not doing it for Daddy, if that's what he's afraid of. The music shifted, more of an electrified fence sound with a raven screaming into the night. Men turned and chest bumped each other, grunting, primal. I went on the attack. You know, Ziggy, you look good as a blonde, but better as a brunette. I bet it was your lipstick on Chandler's collar. You're a reporter looking to expose the truth about the senator's son, doing your civic duty to humanity and all that garbage, he said. No. His fiancé's family wants to know what they are getting in bed with, I said. The drink sweated in my hand, the lights reflecting off the glass. And the note? He replied. Saying you'd like to get to know him better? Was that part of the act? I paused a heartbeat, staring into the throng of men dancing, jumping, screaming. Chandler had disappeared into the crowd. I surrendered to the truth. No, it wasn't just a job. I mean, it was at first. I thought about taking a sip, but kept my head instead. I've been alone for a long time. Seeing somebody as alone as me made me want to get to know him, ease his loneliness. You're a private investigator, hired by the Pembrokes to look into me? A second voice said, one I'd never heard in person, only afar. Chandler took the seat next to mine, all smolder, all the time. I swallowed, hard. Random colored paint splatters highlighting his body, glitter dusted, the sheen of sweat. And he smelled like strawberries, like a summer afternoon when I was in high school, when my best friend had walked away, never looking back. I had just come out to him, expecting him to understand. He didn't. Talk, Chandler ordered. I shrugged, drained the manifesto. It all became clear. Nobody knows about your secret life. Not your dad, not your fiancé, not your future in-laws. Maybe you said something, or forgot some trivial detail, but whatever it was, they want the truth, but don't want to ask. They want the answers. Quiet. Chandler glanced at Ziggy. Ziggy didn't smile. You're afraid to let the truth out, I said. Why? Chandler sighed. Expectations. As a senator's son, I'm expected to live up to Daddy's standards. He's planned out my life. Political science degree with a minor in rhetoric and public discourse, student body president, be involved in political committees, eventually run for office. The Pembrokes have a solid reputation. Daddy arranged it, arranged the proposal in front of both families and the press, so I had to get down on one knee and ask. You don't love her? No. Does she love you? I don't know. Maybe. Have you told her you're gay? We've only been alone together twice. Her parents made sure of that. Have you tried talking to your dad? With a scoff, Chandler looked into the crowd. He's never around unless there's a news van to document it. Been that way most of my life. His eyes narrowed, his voice polluted with a bitter twang. To Dad, family is a series of political power chess pieces he can toy with. The music changed again. Somniac 1. Mechanics, get wicked, the DJ screamed. Chandler grabbed my hand, lured me to the dance floor. Ziggy watched our six. Literally. The beat was fast, desperate, yet we danced. As light transformed, the darkness caressed, and men sweated all around. A couple kissed as the tempo jangled into high speed. Chandler danced, jumped, spun, shouted, glittering in the shadows, painted with an abandon he was never permitted. A man trying to forget, but not allowed. A man too afraid to shine, so he was trapped in shame. And me, I surrendered to the minimalist rhythm, the thunder of an angry beat, to revel in life unfulfilled. Chandler had closed his eyes, sweat running down his cheeks like tears, smearing the body paint, muting the glitter, a man trapped in the tar, too ashamed to live, too ashamed to be himself, a beautiful man who doubted his worth. My mind remembered high school. The months I spent pining over my phone, waiting for my best friend to acknowledge that I even existed. We passed in the hall a few times. I said hi. He ignored me. Once, he told me to leave him alone. My mind faded into the music, a violent pulse that blessed me with existence from thought. Chandler danced to forget. His white chrysanthemum tucked into a pocket of his black jeans, now stained and wilted, a sad memory of what it had once promised. I danced, we danced, both hiding in the music's violence to avoid reality. Both dancing. I wasn't sure if we were dancing to forget or to feel alive. We walked outside, eventually, Ziggy staying close. I need to be going, I said. They are paying me to find out about your double life. What should I tell them? Do you have to tell them anything? Ziggy asked. I nodded. Chandler, you can't hide forever. It's already caught up to you. I can't talk to my dad, he said. Ziggy snorted. The all-powerful senator who's planned your life out? Chandler faced away from me, his breath quiet in the night. Back in high school, my boyfriend's parents called Dad. They saw us kissing, demanded Dad keep me away from their son. So what did Dad do? He sent me to a private school, one in another state, away from all my friends, away from him, just to avoid scandal. What happened to your boyfriend? I asked. Our love didn't survive. I'm sorry, I said. But you're an adult now. You haven't met the senator. Ziggy folded his arms, his face looking exactly like the woman he had been in the photo. You do things his way because his way is the best way and the only way, and if you don't, he finds a way to force you. I hate him. Chandler turned to face me. My job isn't good enough. My friends aren't good enough. My grades weren't good enough. My tutors weren't good enough. My degree isn't good enough. The car I drive isn't good enough. He's disappointed I didn't go into politics. He's disappointed that I didn't go into the military like he did. He's disappointed I am not married and giving him an heir. He's disappointed I like cross-stitch and am good at it. Chandler even won an award, Ziggy added. Second place, Chandler replied. What about your mom? Chandler took a sip of Ziggy's manifesto. That's good. Mom's not in the picture. She's in Europe, been there since I was 10. She's an artist, real creative type, always painting or drawing, total opposite of Dad. She tried to take me with her, but Dad wouldn't hear of it, said it would look bad for his image. That's rough, I said. Dad doesn't handle creative people very well. Chandler smiled, though the music rained loud. The lights ripped across the walls. His melancholic voice rang out. I heard every word. Mom used to say, when you make something from the heart, the sun shines a little brighter. Dad hated it. Ziggy took his drink back and sipped it. Didn't your mom have an art show or something just before she left? Chandler almost grinned, but the good humor drained from his paint-splattered face. She was supposed to go with Dad to a fundraiser. Dad said something like, my future depends on this. Supportive wives make people happy. And they open their pocketbooks. They fought the rest of that weekend, and Mom left. She kissed me on the forehead before the car pulled away. I was 10. I thought she'd come back. She didn't. Nobody said anything for a moment. The music ripped through the air, a chainsaw churning through the silence. Kicked out, Ziggy finally gurgled under his breath. Chandler looked at me, pleading. I don't want Dad to find out. He gets mean when he doesn't get his own way. I changed subjects because this one was kicking me to the curb. I raised my almost empty manifesto, as if in salute. If the carnation is the entry ticket, why wear it at other places, like your job? His dark, mysterious eyes told me the answer before he even spoke. It reminds me to be free. Sunday morning. I had driven back home last night, alone. I had a decision to make, and an easy one, really. Do like I was paid and tell the Pembrokes about the gay rave? Engagement cancelled. Georgia would be furious. Senator Morrison would eventually find out. Probably toss his son onto dumpster row. Chandler might be in his mid-20s, and it's a good thing he is old enough to drink, because he loses. In the engagement, daddy, blending into shadows, little things. Or I could keep Chandler in the closet, tell everyone he is just what he seems, a boring pharmacist intern who doesn't do anything weird, protect him from his father. I'd still get paid. Senator Morrison wouldn't learn the truth, at least not yet, and all it cost was my integrity. To outsiders, it seems cut and dried. After all, it's only my professional reputation on the line, nothing important. I poured coffee into a chipped mug, the kind that remembered better mornings. The dawn outside felt too honest, too bare. Chandler's glitter still clung to my fingertips like some sacred residue I hadn't earned. The report would be easy. I could type it in 20 minutes, lace it with enough ambiguity to imply normal, and seal it with a sigh. George's parents would be relieved. Daddy Morrison would keep sipping brandy over pre-approved press releases. Chandler would go back to pretending. And Ziggy would keep dancing beneath stained glass sermons. Easy, and a total lie. But maybe easy was how the flowers stopped singing. I picked up my phone. The Pembrokes had given me Chandler's number along with everything else. My gut churned like a washer-on-rinse cycle. No matter what I did, somebody would lose. Either way, it would include me. I texted, "Chandler, I'll buy lunch." I had no idea what I was going to say. He responded within 2 minutes. At lunch, my brain stopped, and my heart. He had dressed to impress, and I was impressed. Standing to greet him, I gave the guy a quick hug. He wore a white carnation, its fresh scent a prelude to the one he pinned to my shirt. "We need to talk," we both said as one. It was 1 week later, Saturday night, all or nothing. 11 o'clock, 1 hour before midnight. Time to face the music. Literally. It pounded inside the tabernacle, a primal rhythm that disturbed as much as it seduced. The praying hands' stained glass window pulsed with red lights, green and purple. Dusted with silver glitter, I was dressed in a dark trench coat, neon shirt that would glow under a black light, and hair spiked so hard it could be considered a deadly weapon. White carnation on my lapel, 2 in my hand. Chandler stood slightly behind me, wearing a tux jacket with the sleeves chainsawed off, a tee that was more slashes than shirt, and his trademark white carnation. The silver glitter sparkled on his shoulders, in his hair, on his skin. Ziggy stood near, close enough if we needed him, far enough to keep watch. Incoming. He nodded at the traffic. More precisely, a black BMW driving up. Chandler looked at his phone and then waved. A woman climbed out of the rear door, dressed in a teal sequined off-the-shoulder dress, ready for a night of clubbing. Well, normal clubbing. Overdressed for this club. She eyed the neighborhood as if it would bite. East Vegas? It just might. She walked to us, high heels adding to the pounding of the drums. Chandler gave her a quick hug. "Silas," she said, looking at me. I nodded and handed her one of the chrysanthemums. "Thank you for coming, Georgia. Put this on. We're waiting on the senator." His limo drove up, but he wasn't the only person who climbed out. His campaign videographer phone at the ready, emerged from the passenger side, and 2 bodyguards flanked the good senator. I feel safer already. As soon as he stepped out of the car, a momentary disgust, fear, shock crossed his face. Guess he never expected constituents here. "Chandler, what's this about?" the senator asked, though it sounded more like a demand. Chandler's hand found mine as if seeking courage. I squeezed it, offering what I could. He looked his dad directly in the eye. "Time to stop hiding, Dad. I want you to meet my friends and meet the man I really am. Time to come out of the closet." I handed the senator a chrysanthemum. I didn't have enough for his entourage. We walked inside the tabernacle. Georgia followed, a single eyebrow raised, especially when a guy in silver strutted to her and said, "Girl, you think I could rock that color? I would die to have skin like yours." The senator lagged behind, waiting for his bodyguards and videographer to get a flower. Georgia looked at all the men moshing in the church, nothing but men, and smiled. "I'm okay with you being gay, Chandler. One advantage to this place, I don't have to worry about getting hit on. Consider the engagement off. Excuse me, I'm going dancing." She dove into the sea of men, getting down with 3 guys, raging with them, and cutting loose into the moment. With a running leap, Chandler jumped up to the altar, where the DJ had laid out his equipment. He took the microphone. The music paused. He spun the microphone a couple of times before holding it in his hand. "Welcome, everyone under the rainbow. You know me as Chandler. My father here, he's never been to a gay rave. In fact, he never believed I was gay. This is my coming out party, and I want all of you to share it." The videographer recorded all of it. Georgia whooped the loudest, but Ziggy and I were a close second. The crowd cheered as only a mosh pit could. The music restarted, violent, loud, full of life unrepentant. Senator Morrison couldn't get mad. He was on camera. Instead, he waved and said nice things, like how proud of his son he was, that he hoped the LGBTQ community would back him because he hoped to make a difference. And the videos of the senator in a mosh pit went viral, especially the one where he hugged his son. Who knows if it was staged or if he really meant it, but Chandler didn't have to be afraid anymore. The Morrison case was now closed. A satisfying job well done. Epilogue. I wrote the final report, tucked away the flower, and poured fresh copy into that old chipped mug. Maybe I hadn't saved the world, but I'd helped one man step into it, and sometimes that's enough. My phone buzzed. An incoming text. "Chandler, how about drinks tonight after work at the Black Orchid?" I bit my lip as my mouth smiled on its own. I need to stop by a florist on the way. After all, I'm not fully dressed unless I wear a white chrysanthemum. I have a feeling this case might last for a very long time. Years even. I'm fine with that. Hey everyone, this is Gio, your host and narrator, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my storytelling heart for joining me on this journey. This episode was crafted in collaboration with Copilot, my creative partner in prose, poetry, and plant metaphors. If you'd like a few more stories, stop by my channel, Loud and Proud L3Q. Think of those stories as shorts. Why? They are only 4 minutes long. So until next time, I love you all. Peace, my friends.